Decisions are made, the future's at stake. Let's get the facts, there's too much at play. This is Policy Pulse, Education Edition.
There we are. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Policy Pulse Education Edition. Tonight is part 9. Can you believe it? Of our Title I series. And this is the moment where the conversation shifts dramatically. I mean, it does for you as parents, as guardians, as community members that are concerned about and have been along for the ride in regards to Title I, because up till now, we have been naming what the law says, what schools are required to do, and what happens when they don't comply. But tonight is about what you as parents, as guardians, as community members can actually do when you sense, when you know that something isn't right. So that's what we're talking about tonight. And I want to tell you right off the cuff that this is not about confrontation. I've had enough of that today. This is not about anger, not at all. But it's about process, it's about documentation, and it's about accountability and responsibility. That's what tonight is all about. So I want to thank you first for joining us, whether you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. My name is Katina Taylor. I'm the founder and CEO of Dreams KC, where we empower parents with the tools they need to teach their children foundational literacy skills. We also, of course, address policy because policy directly impacts what happens in your school district, and in your classrooms. That being said, I want to make sure that we have what we need so we can get into this conversation tonight. Please hit that like button, subscribe and follow the pages at Literacy is Liberation. Invite someone in. Again, this is part 9 of a 10-part series. But you know that prior to the start of this series, and I will tell you that it'll continue after this series, we will continue to talk education policy and all of the things that impact your children in K-12 educational institutions. So thank you again for being here. If you want to follow along in the chat, I may see some of your comments, I may not, but I will go back and respond to them later if I don't get to them tonight. So I just want to make sure that you are engaged, you feel invited and welcome in the space, and we gonna dive right in. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Katina Taylor. Again, I am I spent 15 years in K-12 classrooms. Middle school is where I started. Then I went to elementary school and I wrapped up in high schools, teaching middle school English language arts, African American history, and first grade. I am passionate. I am an advocate. I will, they say, is that the hill you want to die on? Literacy is that hill, because we believe at Dreams KC that literacy is liberation. We stand on the notion, the word spoken by Frederick Douglass, that once you learn to read, you are forever free. I am a strategic thinker, a visionary leader, and I champion children and families. That's the work. That is what I do. That is why I am here. I often say I am not my brother or sister's keeper. I am my brother or sister. So if you believe in that, I encourage you to stay with me, tune in, get your pencil, your pen, your paper. Get ready to screenshot, record, whatever you need to do, because this information is for you. We are activating, we are mobilizing, we are organizing. But before we do that, I always start with a disclaimer that the views and opinions expressed on Policy Pulse belong to me, Katina Taylor, not my funders, not my organization, or any of my partners. So I want to be really, really clear that the views and opinions that are expressed are mine and mine alone. Okay, just so you know. All right, you guys. And before we get into the meat of our conversation, I've started every one of the sessions in this 10-part series with this definition, because I think it is important that you be clear. What are we talking about when we start talking about education policy? In the bottom line, it is everything: the laws, the rules, the regulations, the policies that dictate how schools and school districts are organized, how they're funded, and how they are run. Okay. So when we start talking about education policy, we're talking about at the federal level, at the state level, and at the local level. That is what I want you all to understand about education policy. And that's why it is important for us to understand, to be involved, and not be passive recipients of education, but active participants in the process. And by law, we are given the opportunity to do just that. All right. So we are not passive, we are active. We have a place of power and position. And the goal in this 10-part series is that you understand the power and position that you occupy as it relates to federal statute, which is Title I, the Every Student Succeeds Act, Section 1116 of the statute. Okay. So that's what I want you all to know. That's what I want you all to be aware of. So tonight's topic, we are shifting from concern. I have something that just isn't sitting well as it relates to my school or my school district. I've asked questions. I've asked for copies of policies and things of that nature, and no one seems to be able to answer the questions, provide the information that I want, that I need, that I'm entitled to. So we are talking from concern to complaint, how you trigger as parents, as caregivers, right? Guardians, how you trigger Title I accountability. So I know a lot of schools, school districts, Title I administrators, board members, superintendents may not want parents to have this information. This is probably the episode that they like, oh Lord, we didn't want them to have this information, but they're getting it. They're getting it because they're entitled to get it. And you all know that they are. Parents need this information most because it empowers them to act. So if you're a parent who's ever thought that, something just isn't sitting well with me, something feels a little off, but I don't know what to do next, this is the episode for you. We move again from concern to complaint. And that's what I want you to be aware of. All right. So why are we here? Why are we here? I'm gonna give you a little story time. Let me take my slides off for a quick second, y'all. It's a little story time, and I hope you all can I hope you all can kind of tap in, understand a couple of things. So, story time. I noticed that Title I was not functioning according to law many, many years ago. And I attempted to address it, but I wasn't as informed. I hadn't done the research, I hadn't dug into the statute back then. And I didn't really have the capacity to take this issue on. So I was aware, but I wasn't educated or really informed. Okay. I was a parent then, but I'm a grandparent now. I have 4 amazing grandchildren, 3 of which are school age. And this is the first year that they attend separate schools. And you may have heard this, you may not have. And I hope you can hang with me as I kind of navigate this story so you understand where I'm coming from and why this whole issue resurfaced. This is the first year that all 3 of my grandchildren are attending different schools. Prior to, they all attended the same school. They're all elementary age. One goes to a Kansas City public school. I'm a product of Kansas City Public Schools. I started my teaching career with Kansas City Public Schools. So we have care and concern for Kansas City Public Schools. And two, go to local public charter schools, pretty elite local public charter schools. And I emphasize public because oftentimes people don't understand that charter schools are also public schools. Okay. So I was so excited to get involved and engaged, as I always have been, around my grandchildren, my son as well. And my mother was the same way. And when I went to the one of the charter schools, I was informed that there was no current operating parent group. They have had them in the past because my son went to the same school. So I knew that over the years, and I have family members who have children that go to that school. My niece has gone to that school. I knew that there were parent groups. I couldn't understand what happened. So I started asking a lot of questions, and the questions were not answered to my satisfaction. And I asked one of those questions being, if there is no active and engaged parent group, how are you all complying with Title I? And people were not happy with me asking that question. So that was a red flag. In a few episodes back, we talk about red flags. So go back and take a look at that episode. I went to the other charter school. My oldest grandson attends. They've been open for about 15 years in our community. And I was told that there has never been an active and engaged parent group. So I asked some additional questions, just as I did at the other school. No one could really answer those questions, and they were not happy that I was asking them. Red flag. I went to the Kansas City Public School that my other grandson attends, and I asked to speak with the community and family engagement individuals so that I could get information of when the parent group met. And to date, I have yet to get that information. So I was quite clear that at a minimum, the requirement to have active, engaged parents that are participating in policy making, that particular right that is guaranteed to parents, that is not being met. And if that one is not being met, then more than likely, and in practice, then the rules and regulations around Title I are also not being met. That is problematic, and that means non-compliance with a federal statute. So that story all to say, I, like you, have a vested interest as a taxpayer, as a former educator, as a nonprofit leader who works with schools, school districts, and community-based organizations around literacy, as a grandmother. I have a vested interest. So I'm not picking a fight. What I am saying to schools and school districts, to parents really, is that you need to be informed just like I needed to be informed. We need to be educated and empowered to ask for the things that are guaranteed us under the law. And that happening in schools and school districts is just a smaller microcosm, right? Or example of what's happening in the larger world as it relates to rights that people have, but they are being violated or not honored. And we can't stand idly by and allow that to continue. So that's what I wanted to share. That's the little story time. You know why I'm doing this work. And it really isn't that it is an attack. It is a confrontation. It is not that at all. It is, we have been promised something for the benefit of our children, and we want to ensure that we hold the individuals accountable and responsible for honoring what we have been given, to be implementing the rights that we have been given with fidelity so that our children are better for it. You guys get that? I hope you do. I hope you do. I really, really do. I hope you get it, and I hope you're with me. All right. So that being said, let's get back up here and talk about where we are, why we're here, and what we're going to do. Because you, like me, and I know it because I talk to parents each and every day, have probably noticed some problems. Something feels wrong with what Katina has said, what I know to be true about how Title I funds are used, how they're supposed to be allocated, and who participates in the decision-making process. You've become aware of this. Something doesn't sit well, right? And oftentimes when you start asking questions like me, you'll have probably the same experience. People get upset, they get anxious, they get defensive, or they just ignore you. That's problematic. But what I want you to understand and know is that systems only move when you move them. Leon Dixon, who's a long-time member of our community, often says, I think he's the first person I ever heard say it. He said, power concedes nothing without demand. You have to demand systems shift. You have to demand the systems and institutions honor the rights and responsibilities, right? And that process has to be triggered. You can't be a loud, clinging cymbal, so to speak. No, you have to come with documentation and other things to make the system begin to shift and move. So it's great to have concern, but process is what's going to begin to shift the system. All right, not concern alone. So I want you to understand and know that. So what is a Title I complaint? Remember, we episodes 1 through 8, we talked about all of the things. What Title I affords us, what's the rights and responsibilities of schools and school districts. We talked about state law, federal law, local, Missouri and Kansas, right? We've talked about these things, Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County, you name it. But what is it? What is it now that is triggered? What is this complaint? And you'll see it here. It's formal. It is not informal. But I want you to be really, really clear about something, that this is, again, not an attack. This is accountability and responsibility. So I want you to be really, really, really clear. It is not a personal attack. It is not just a social media post to draw someone's attention to anything. And it is not a heated meeting. The three things that my weary little self did early on, I was like, well, let me post about this. What you mean? You as the principal or you as the Title I administrator, I personally attacked them as if no one can hear you when you attack them. And then I had heated meetings where we just ended up going back and forth, not resolving anything. That is not what a Title I complaint is. That is not how you move systems. But it's a formal written process that is protected by law. That's what you need to understand. It's how you as a parent, as a guardian, as a taxpayer, as a community member, right, trigger oversight when schools or school districts have failed to follow Title I requirements. That's what it is. No more, no less. And this matters because systems, again, do not respond to frustration. They don't care about your little self being frustrated, angry. They respond to documentation. Because when you start tracking things, when you start writing things down, when you start recording things, now people have to take notice, because a paper trail. And remember my former life, I have JD behind my name. So as lawyers, we tell people, keep a paper trail. Keep a paper trail. It's important that you keep a paper trail. Always, 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 always keep a paper trail. It's extremely important that you do that, because that's what's going to begin to shift systems. All right? I want you to be really, really clear about that. And this is something that you all are rarely, rarely told. Okay? I'm going to tell you. Here's some things that you're rarely told. You do not need permission to file a complaint. You do not need a consensus to file a complaint. Party of 1 is okay. Party of 10 is better. And you do not need to be loud about it. Now, I know I'm quite loud, but that is not what's required. Sometimes stealth movement is the most effective movement. You all hear me? You understand what I'm saying? You need facts, you need dates, and you need receipts. That's what you need. And we talk about having receipts in pop culture. This is one of them times where, yeah, I'm not speculating. This is not my opinion. This is what I have witnessed. I asked for this thing via email, in person, at a meeting. I gave you a certain amount of days to get it to me, and I have yet to receive it. That's a receipt. I sent the text. I responded to the newsletter. I had the meeting, and nothing has come of it. That's a receipt. You all understand what I'm saying? You need facts, you need dates, you need receipts. You don't need a consensus, you don't need to be loud, and you don't need permission. That's how accountability begins. Okay? I want you all to understand me, and hear me well when I say this. And you ain't got to be scared. Okay? You don't have to be fearful. And oftentimes, that's what people count on, is you being fearful or scared or not sure of how to proceed. Okay? All right. So, when a concern becomes a compliance issue. Now, remember I said something in your gut, right? But then you start documenting things and you're like, wait a minute. Something is not right here. That's where I'm at with these 3 schools. Just saying. Are you with your school? Let me ask you all this question. Those of you that are tuning in and listen, drop in the comments whether or not your particular school. Well, first I want to know what state you're in. You're in Missouri or Kansas? Tell me that first. If you are comfortable enough, drop what school district your children, your child, your students attend. And then tell me if that individual school or schools, if you have multiple children, do they have an active, engaged parent group that participates in how Title I funding is allocated, in shaping the parent engagement policy? Have they shared with you, as they are required, the complaint process specific to Title I? Drop it in the comments. Let me know. I'm interested to know if you sit in the same seat as me or someone else. All right. So when does a concern become a compliance issue? When parents are excluded from planning because the Title I statute, Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, Section 1116, says you are to participate in planning. The specific language said parents should jointly participate in, right? So if you're excluded from planning, you say, when are the planning meetings? When are we going to have the meetings? And they say, well, we've had our Title I meeting for the year. You can't just have one. No, sir, no, ma'am. Absolutely not. All right, concern becomes a compliance issue when policies are written without parent input. When meetings are held, but voices aren't heard. What does that mean? You show up to a meeting, they say we are going to construct the Title I plan, the parent engagement plan, or what have you. But really and truly, they're presenting a plan that's already been written. You voice your concern, and they say, we'll get back to you. You ask questions, you're ignored. You give feedback, but nothing's done with it. That's your voice being ignored. Okay? Funds are spent without parent involvement. There is a floor for the Title I funds. 1% of the Title I budget, that's a floor, is allocated to parent engagement. You, as parents, guardians, taxpayers, etc., have an opportunity to participate in how the decisions around how that 1%, the floor, doesn't mean it's only 1%, it can be more than that, how that is to be spent. And it's not just sitting at a table giving your input, they write it down, and then they still do nothing that you all have discussed. That is not meaningful participation. That is not joint decision making. And the statute requires that, okay? And concern becomes a compliance issue when complaints are ignored or dismissed. I made the complaint, Katina. No one responded. They said they meet the qualifications and that was it. Waved me off as that annoying parent. Here she come again. Here they come again. They always have something to say. That's when concern becomes a compliance issue. And at that point, it's not about feelings. It's about whether the law is being followed or not. Period, point blank. You all hear me? It is about whether or not the law is being followed or not. Period. Point blank. That is where we are when concern shifts from just being a concern to a compliance issue. So I want you all to be really, really clear about that. I hope you screenshot that. I hope you're taking notes. I hope you're recording. I hope you are sharing this out. Oh, thank you. Let me see. Let me put this up here. We have a parent group, but no engagement, just presentations, no Title I meetings happening, complaint time. All the red flags are there. You are not, the statute requires that parents jointly participate in planning, meaningful participation. So it doesn't matter if you have a parent group, if you just show up and presentations are being made, not okay. Ask the question. File the complaints. And we're going to get to the steps you take to file the complaints, because I don't want you to skip totally over the school and go to the state level. So I'm going to walk you through it. But this is where you are at this point. You show up and you're presented to, you're talked at. You're not a real participant. You're not a co-collaborator, co-creator, joint planner in anything. Problematic, red flag. But you know your rights now. So it won't continue. Now, remember, I said you can be in stealth mode. One is enough. You don't have to ask permission. But gather some other parents. Show them some of these videos. Let them know what they are entitled. Go to the statute itself. You don't have to listen to Katina. Go to the statute itself. Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, Section 1116. It's right there in black and white. I didn't make it up. It's federal law. So thank you for tuning in again. Like, share, invite others to tune in. This is part 9. We got part 10 next week. I'm going to tell you more. And then I'm going to invite you all in for an opportunity. I ain't asking for no money or nothing, but I want to support you as you organize, as you mobilize, and as you activate to file your complaints and shift the systems that exist in our communities for the betterment of our children. Okay? So thank you for that comment. Thank you for being brave enough to share. I appreciate that, because not everybody will be. Okay? So, all right, I want to make sure I got to that comment. Thank you for sharing that. So let me say it real plain. I think I always speak plainly. You know, I'm not any professional jargon. Not at all. I want it plain so all of us can be on the same page together. Okay? If a school tells you, y'all ready? Quote unquote, we've already decided. We don't do it that way. Just trust us. We got it. We know what's best. That is not reassurance. That is not compliance. It's a red flag. Can y'all drop a red flag in the chat for me if you can find one in the, I don't know if they had that as an emoji or not. Red flag. That is a brush off. That is a dismissal of you and what you are making inquiry of in that moment. And it's unacceptable. So I want you all to be real clear about that. We've already decided. We don't do it that way. Just trust us. We know what's best. One, you're demeaning me. You're brushing me off. You're ignoring my concern. And that's unacceptable. It's a red flag. And I want you to understand it and take it as such and then move forward. Right? Oh, I got you. You sure that's the road you want to go down? Okay. I'm okay. I'm often like that. I often have to say, okay, that's what we doing. All right. So I like a visual representation so you can really see the map, kind of where we start, right? And kind of walk you through what accountability really, how it moves, what this path is, what's the road, right? So, of course, you have a school level concern that kind of starts you thinking something might be off here. I remember hearing that, we're entitled to do thus and so. They're mandated to have meaningful parent engagement. So, you have a concern, right? And you document those concerns in writing. Then, right, you take it to the school leader, the principal, a vice principal, maybe they have a Title I coordinator within that building. I don't know because it depends on your LEA or your school district. LEA school district interchangeable. Local Education Association. Association, yeah, LEA. So charters are usually considered to be LEAs, right? Your traditional school districts, we just call school districts, but you'll hear that term, and I want you to understand that's what it means, okay? So you take it to the school, CEO, the executive director, the principal, the Title I coordinator, whomever is in charge of that. You say, hey, I've documented this. This is what's going on. I need a response in the next 30 days. Now you may say 30 days, Katina, golly. And I get it, but give them some wiggle room. Things might happen. It might be testing time, might be spring break, it could be snow days, it could be anything. Or they may have to check with their legal department or whomever. So you give them 30 days. 30 days, I'm going to follow up. No response? Now I get to escalate to the district level. That superintendent or whomever it has put in place. Is it the Title I administrator at the district level? Is an associate superintendent? If you're at a charter, what does that structure look like? So you know exactly who to go to at the district level. And now you say, I am formally putting you on notice that I am going to file a complaint regarding Title I compliance. And here's the documentation to support that. It's not loud. It's not angry. It's just matter of fact. Okay? Y'all hear me? And then if we can't get something done at the district level, we move it to the state level. We call the State Board of Education. We ask the question. Usually that's going to be someone in a specific office, like a Title I compliance office, or that could be their federal programs office because it is a federal program. But ask the question, and they will direct you to who you need to speak with. And then you move forward. Now, I would hope that we don't have to go to a state level. I hope we don't even have to go beyond maybe a school level. Something tells me that's not going to happen. We usually are probably going to hit right there at that district level, means showing up at school board meetings, virtually or in person, getting on that agenda, speaking for that 3 minutes, understanding and knowing they're not going to respond to you at that school board meeting, but you've put them on notice. You've asked the question. Now you have some receipts and documentation. Now you've put somebody on the hook for having to respond to you and your concerns that you have now documented and put in writing. Y'all see how the process goes, right? So I want you to understand this is not theoretical. This ain't guessing how to do it. This is how federal oversight works. And if you miss a step, that gives people a reason to say they do not have to respond to you. I'm setting you up for success, not failure. And you then will set yourself and your fellow parents up for success and not failure, right? So I want you to be really, really clear about where we're going, where we're headed, how we do it, and why we do it a certain way, okay? I want you to be really, really clear about that. Now, district leaders may tell you they didn't know, we didn't know, but they do. They know that pathway. They know that pathway really, really well. But what they count on is you not knowing it. That's what they count on. Intentionally or unintentionally, consciously or subconsciously. Oftentimes, systems and people within systems that just want to get through the day and want to maintain the status quo and don't want to have any hiccups along the way, they live and breathe on the notion that you don't know enough information to be activated. But when you are informed, you are empowered, and things change and shift for the better. For all of us, really. Because what we don't want to do is have to escalate to a state level and then they're being monitored. Then they're being audited. Things of that nature. That's not what they want. That's not what we want. We want the Title I funding to be in our schools and school districts. Oftentimes, that is the largest pot of federal dollars that comes to schools and school districts. We don't want that to get taken away. What we want is to be involved in the process as is guaranteed by the law. Because oftentimes people will make decisions for you and they say that it is in your best interest when really and truly we're doing the same thing, expecting different results. So maybe it's time for a different set of eyes to be at the table, a different voice to be engaged in the process so that something can shift or change for the better of our children. How can someone fight us on that? If you say you show up every day and you're doing what's in the best interest of children, are you? Are you though? I mean, I help me understand. So I want you to be really, really clear about where we stand and what we're doing and why we're doing it. There's always a why, right? So who holds the power? Who holds the power, y'all? Well, your school or your school district, they generally hold the power with you, not in isolation. Now, the money flows from the federal government to the state disperses it to the local school districts, and then that LEA, that school district, is responsible for the compliance, for the budget allocation, and for the parent engagement policies, right? They're the first entity when something goes wrong. So, we said buck stops here. Usually it's at that school district level. That's that sweet spot where we can begin to see some change, shift some things that aren't happening well. Get people out of the red flag phase and move them into the compliance phase. If you don't know who's running your school district, that superintendent, the associate superintendent, your board members, in a charter, that executive director, that CEO, then you don't know who you're holding accountable. You need to get to know these people. You need to start showing up to a board meeting, y'all, virtually or in person. You need to go to that PTA, PTO, SAC, or DAC meeting, y'all. You need to go to the parent-teacher conferences, y'all. We got to show up. So that then when you actually start asking the questions, engaging, and talking about compliance, you don't come out of nowhere. No, this person has been visible. They've been engaged. So if they say they have receipts, I'm sure they do because I've been seeing them engage, be involved. If Katina showed up at any school or school district in 2026, they're going to be like, oh, Lord, is this a good visit or not? Most of the time, it's a good visit. I'm coming to talk about literacy. But it could be a, oh, Lord, visit. If a parent has come, if my grandchildren go to your school and you're not complying, right? So what do you document? What do you document, folks? All right? Let me tell you what you document. Dates of meetings. You keep copies of any policies and plans that you've been given. Are they in draft form or final form? What date did you get them? How are they presented to you? As finished documents, as drafts where you give input? Emails and written responses. Keep everything. I do. Evidence of exclusion. I sent this email on this date. I asked for a response by this date and I didn't get anything. That's evidence of exclusion. The parent group met. We presented our ideas. Yet, no follow-up meeting has been scheduled or hosted to discuss our ideas about the allocations of these funds or the rewrites on these policies or the evaluation of the programs or curricula that we have put in place or the job description of a proposed new person or whatever it may be that is within Title I requirements. Missed requirements. You're required to do this, 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 and this, but you only did the one thing. When will you do these others? Oh, just trust us. We're going to do it. Yeah, I would like to, but historically, that just hasn't been the case. So I really actually need to see evidence of it. Again, that's not being difficult. That's just standing firm and being assertive in the power that you possess as a parent, as a guardian, as a taxpayer. Right? So verbal conversations, that don't matter. Where's your evidence? Where's your documentation? Making assumptions, I just had to tell somebody that today, or what I feel, it isn't enough. Somebody told me that, well, this is what Miss So-and-so said. That's not even admissible in court. It is not. It's hearsay. Social media posts. I can post all day, every day. Where's my evidence? Papers move systems. Opinions do not. Y'all keep that right there. I need to put that on the t-shirt. Paper moves systems. Opinions do not. Okay? I want you to be real clear about that. Documentation is what turns stories, what you heard, what you thought, what you assumed, into evidence. So document everything. I want you to be really clear about that. Document everything. Everything. I want you to write something down real quick. You got your notes? Record it, whatever you're going to do. If it isn't written, it didn't happen. Have y'all heard that before? If it isn't documented, it can be denied. Because it's my word against yours. Where your receipt at? Where your evidence? Paper protects parents. Y'all better, that's a hashtag right there. Paper protects parents, okay? It does. Even if I have a phone call, and this is a good business practice, period. In every phase of your life, even if you have a phone call, you follow up with an email, a text, something in writing to recap what was discussed, talk about your next steps, talk about your deliverables, talk about the time frame that things must be taken care of. You rehash anything that you have discussed verbally, you put it in writing. That's just a business good practice. Okay? You notice that if you go online and you make a pay arrangement for a bill, they send you a follow-up and say, you agreed to do X, Y, and Z on this date at this time. They're covering their bases. And we have to do the same thing, okay? We have to do the same exact things. We almost done, y'all. I hope y'all getting what I'm putting down. I hope you're getting what I'm putting down. We almost done. All right. So, this is what befalls schools and school districts all the time, right? We can't get parents to come, so we just decided we just gonna write the plan and we'll present it to them. Nope, not in compliance. Well, so many of our parents are busy and they work and they just don't understand. We have really poor folks that, they really, don't have a lot of education. So they probably just wouldn't understand this budget stuff. So we'll just go ahead and do it without their input. Nope. Red flag. Like the person said earlier, we have an active parent group, but we just get presentations. That's an information only, no collaborative meeting. That's a no. And then this is key too. Say they do all the other things. We put the plan together. Parents and schools and school districts work together to put the plans in place. Parents have input, serious input into how the budget is going to be allocated for their Title I funding. We have really informed, engaging a series of meetings to come out with the finalized plans. And then boom, no parent evaluation. You have to evaluate if what we put in place, the curriculum we bought, the person we hired, right? Is it working to improve student outcomes? Because that is the purpose of Title I dollars. How are they evaluating? And once we give our input on that survey, how are you taking that information and utilizing it to inform next steps, next decisions? All of it's required. Not one, not two, not some, all. I don't care if it's theater. I don't care if it's just for show. If it's not meaningful, it is not compliant. Period. Point blank. Put a bow on it, y'all. I'm trying to tell you something. Again, I told you all that tonight would be the one night you needed to be here. The information that schools and school districts do not want you to have. I know some. They're like, oh, crap. She telling me? What? The system does not change because it is asked too nicely. Now, remember I said this is not about emotion. This is not about anger. This is not about confrontation. But I also said that power concedes nothing without demand. I would choose never to have to fight with anybody about anything. But one thing I'm clear about, broken systems don't fix themselves, right? And if I go in, oh, well, can you, yeah, I really don't understand how. No, that's too nice. That's too passive. When for years, in many cases, most cases, there has been non-compliance. Systems change when accountability becomes unavoidable. Systems change when accountability becomes unavoidable, because I've done the documentation, because I have the receipts, because I've been visible, I've set reasonable deadlines, and I have the statute in front of me with the requirements laid out. That's it. If it isn't written, it didn't happen. Period. That's the way it functions in this world. And you all, you know what? Even if it is in some cases, people will still make you try to gaslight you and make you think it didn't happen. Think about how many things are being videotaped right now. And people will attempt to gaslight you and say, well, that ain't really what you saw. You didn't see the whole thing. You didn't see the thing that preceded it. All of that. Try to talk you out of what you know to be true. I had to tell someone today, no, ma'am. I know that this is what I saw. This is what I read. So sorry. You will not gaslight me today. No. No, ma'am. No, sir. Paper protects parents. That's the key right there. Have your documentation. Be visible. Ask the right questions without emotion. And I know that can be very, very difficult when we are talking about our children and getting them the resources that they need. I get it. I understand it. But we have to. We have to remain calm, cool, and collected. Okay, I've been the one that has been labeled the troublemaker. I've been the one that's gotten thrown off of sports fields and things like that. I know I've grown so much. I've been that. But again, what I have realized and matured to understand is that people shut down when you attack them. When we are loud and aggressive, it gives people an opportunity, a reason to say, you're unreasonable. I don't feel safe. I don't want you on the grant. I've seen parents banned from schools where their children go to school. How is that possible when my child has to be here 7-8 hours a day and I can't come on site? You see what I'm saying? So people will look for reasons to protect the status quo. I always say position, power, and paycheck. So we want to do things to begin to shift that narrative. We want to show up differently because ultimately the end goal, ensuring that our voices are heard, that policies are complied with, and that the children get what they need. We're removed out of it, but we are agents, advocates for our children, our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews, or just the little boy or girl that lives in your neighborhood. Okay? So understand and know that. Y'all, I think that's, let me see where we at. Let me see. I did want to share with you all real quick. A couple of things about Missouri and Kansas. You know, their manuals are not aligned to the federal statute. I will say that. I'll say that Kansas is better than Missouri. But I will tell you that they do have official complaint procedures that we can follow. And they are required to investigate any complaint. They can mandate corrective action take place, and they will review your documentation. That's why you must have it. If you don't have it, how can I review it? Right? Again, Kansas, they have a very, very formal complaint process that exists for Title I. They do require that the school district respond and address complaints before they get involved. And they require that federal alignment is in place, period. Same states or different states, same federal law. And we all know Civics 101, if a state requirement is different than a federal requirement, federal law rules, governs, right? So this is what the federal statute says. So states cannot opt out. They cannot change it. Okay? Just want you to know that. So what happens after? You know, I told you that several things can happen, right? Nothing changes until everything changes. They can increase monitoring at the state level. Districts or LEAs can be audited. They can really hone in on reporting requirements. They can require that school or school district, that LEA, to give more documentation and more proof that they're engaging families in the way in which they should, right? All of a sudden, you see people bustling and hustling at the school district level to ensure that you are engaged in a meaningful way. And all of a sudden, things begin to shift. But only after you act from a place of power. That's what's required. Okay? So why does this matter? Because of our kids, right? It's about them getting what's promised, right? We are in a literacy crisis, and selfishly, this is again why Title I is on my radar screen, to be honest. Title I funds are so that children's academic outcomes improve. But if they can't get the interventions that they need, how does that happen? More programs become available, resources shift to where they need to be, and you get a seat at the table, a real voice in the decisions that are being made that impact your children, your child. You get it? You understand that? I hope you all do. I hope you all do. Again, I want you to remind you, this is not about retaliation, not confrontation. It's not chaos. You are not coming to upset the apple cart. That's already been done with the non-compliance. But it's about lawful participation, right? You're not being difficult. You want to be heard. You're not being difficult. You are now educated and informed. You are empowered. You are mobilized. You are organized. And you do that then with the rest of the families that are around you. I want you to understand that. Okay. This really is, where we shift. We got one more episode in this series, which is next Thursday, same time, 6:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is really kind of this power shift moment. I want you to be really, really clear about that. We've talked about what is required. Now we're shifting into what do you do? And this is really, really important for you all to understand. I want you to really understand, take heed to it. Okay? It's not about telling you, tonight wasn't about telling you to go file a complaint. Maybe yet. But it's about showing you that you have the power when process is used correctly. Some of you will have to file a complaint. So I need you to be prepared, informed, and educated about how to go about doing that. Next week, again, is part 10. It's our final episode in this 10-part series around Title I. So we're going to kind of bring everything together in a neat little bow. And you'll leave with a really clear, what I'm going to call a parent action path. Where do we go from here? Right? What to do, when to do it, how to do it collectively. Voice of 1 is okay. Voice of 10 is better. Okay? So if you're ready to move forward from awareness to action, you don't want to miss it. And, really and truly, that's what I got tonight. We've done good on time tonight. I always try 45 minutes to an hour is where we try to stay. I am so thrilled that you all tapped in. You joined us. I want you to like, subscribe, follow, share. Go back. If you're just now getting on this Title I train, this 10-part series, go back. Look at the other episodes so that you truly understand how we got here at part 9 and where we're going in part 10 and thereafter. Because understand and know that just because next week is part 10, we're not going to wrap our little bow on it and walk away. I won't leave you, is what I will say to you. I will not be leaving you at all after next week. We are going to be taking some real action. Remember, I told you I still have little people in schools. And so therefore, there's some requirements that their schools are going to have to meet to be in compliance. And I, along with you, will hold them accountable. So that's what I got. Again, thank you all for joining me, tapping in the comments. Joe, thank you so much. I so appreciate every comment, every like, all the things that you do to encourage me. I really, really appreciate it. Anyone that has joined us for the first time, thank you. You could have been doing anything else, but you took the time out to be informed, to be engaged, to be educated, and to shift from concern to complaint. Take action on behalf of your children, your grandchildren, little boy or little girl in your neighborhood. I really, really appreciate you all. I thank you so much. And I will see you next Thursday, same time, 6:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's what I got. Let's get lit, y'all. Bye.
Big changes in schools, it's time to know what's shaping classrooms, where do we go? Policy shifting, rules on the move. Parents and teachers get